Hello, my name is Stephanie Malak. Currently, I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Community of Literary Magazines and Presses, CLMP, which is based in New York, though I am still in LA. I graduated in 2016 from the Department of Spanish and Portuguese with a PhD in Latin American literature. Yeah, there have been, the question was, what did I do immediately after I graduated and how did I get to where I am now? There have been a few stepping stones to where I am now, certainly. When I first graduated in 2016, I actually just taught for years as a lecturer in the Department of Spanish and Portuguese in my home department. I was very grateful for that ability. I think I probably was also filling some teaching gaps that the department needed at the time, so it was sort of a convenient coalescence of opportunity there. At the time, it was difficult because I was getting a lot of rejections on the job market. But looking back now, that was a wonderful year to sort of just tide me over and give me a bit of a respite and transition from graduate student to some version of a professional that I would be in the future. I was in a familiar space and place and teaching things that I felt good about and confident about. So I'm actually really grateful for that first year. But the second year after that, I was a fellow at the University of Texas Press in the Acquisitions and Rights and Permissions Department. And it was sort of during maybe my last couple years and after I graduated that I started to think about the world of publishing as a possibility. But it certainly wasn't something that I had been grooming myself to be or thought was absolutely the only alternative to academia. There were opportunities that presented themselves along the way that I looked for and sought out. But the fellowship at the University of Texas Press really was like a pretty significant springboard for me. It gave me experience at the International Book Fair in Guadalajara, which is Latin America's biggest book fair and was a very big deal. And it very much made my application for the next position that I got at the Los Angeles Review of Books through the Mellon ACLS Public Fellows Program much more robust. And I knew that when I applied for that program that my application was pretty strong because I was recently finished my PhD and also had experience in the academic publishing world. So that was really probably a very big turning point for me, was getting that fellowship at UT Press. And I loved it. It was a wonderful experience. I have many friends there still. So what is a typical day like for me in the current job that I'm in at the Community of Literary Magazines and Presses, CLMP? I've sort of only worked for organizations that have 4-letter acronyms, so it's kind of my lot in life, I think. As a Director of Strategic Partnerships, I do more or less what the job sounds like. I mean, of course, beyond all of the standard emailing and contacting that I think anyone in any job does. It's kind of a version of project management. I look at all of our members, which are over 500 now, of independent literary magazines and small presses, some of which you've heard of, big ones, Grey Wolf, Coffee House, places like this, and loads of other incredible magazines and smaller presses that I'm so honored to get to work with and know more about because of this job that I didn't know about, before I walked into this role. And what I try to do is find ways to make their lives better. Particularly in the COVID-19 crisis, a lot of that has been reaching out to them to interview them to get a sense of where they're at financially, emotionally, psychologically, what are their plans sort of in the next year, and then putting together services that might be of use to them. I've organized webinars from different kinds of printers or other publishing production services where we might be able to get them discounts. And when we host webinars, they get to see sort of the inner workings and get like a play-by-play that's bespoke just for them to understand how to best use their services, things like that. We just recently wrapped up a massive project, the Literary Arts Emergency Fund, which we got $3.5 million from Mellon, together with the National Book Foundation and the Academy of American Poets. And that is relief fund for the COVID-19 crisis. We had a record number of applicants. Well, this is the first inaugural year, but we had many, many more applications than we were anticipating, and got to fund a lot of, again, small presses and magazines to help them right through this year, pay salaries, overhead costs, production costs. It was money that had no restrictions. they could use it as they saw fit to further their organizations and to help ensure a future for some of these magazines. So in terms of like fielding applications, handling money of that large amount is sometimes scary. But everything that goes into that kind of project, everything for me sort of comes down to project management, right? And like in the ways in which I can best serve these members that pay a fee to be a part of our organization and get loads of services and opportunities in return. And so I'm always trying to find ways to grow that. My current project that I'm most excited about is one where I'm setting up a partnership with Johns Hopkins University's Project Muse. And so that's forthcoming, I hope, and something I'm really excited about and hope to see as much to fruition as I can before I leave. I don't want to be too much of a broken record, but I do think project management is a big one that graduate students often overlook. If you're teaching, you're managing a classroom and you're managing grading and you're managing pedagogy. And that is not to be ignored or underscored in any way, because you're also managing that in addition to your own research and your own writing and whatever other projects you might have going on. Maybe you see it as just life project management or just life, but there is something to be said about the way those puzzle parts fit together that ultimately gets you to finishing your degree. You know, you're responsible for that. And if you do it, then you've managed a project. My biggest suggestion, really and truly, outside of I do think reframing networking as friend making, or even thinking about it in terms of just curiosity, being curious about what other people do and asking them questions, right? PhD students are good at asking questions, so just do that, but with a person. But in a more boots on the ground kind of way, I am a big fan of the informational interview. This was said once to me a long time ago. Maybe that was the best piece of career advice I got, but I can't attribute it. I can't remember who told me. I started doing that a couple years before I graduated, not because I was trying to leave academia, but because I knew that I was going to apply for jobs where I was one of hundreds and hundreds of applicants. It's just an issue of pragmatism. And I mean, I actually even have an informational interview set up next week with someone who I got to know through our Literary Arts Emergency Fund deployment. And I'm just curious, we're kind of at the same level in terms of experience and rank in our respective organizations. And I think that's important to remember too. It doesn't just need to be the person who you want to aspirationally be in 10 or 15 years. I'm just trying to fill my repertoire with information and people and experiences to see if it's something that I might be interested in. I mean, I can remember cold emailing a lot of people in all different walks of, we'll say broadly the nonprofit sector, but maybe the literary arts management, grant organization, grants management, that sort of thing. And the number of people who said yes was overwhelming. People are just really happy to help, or I think not unlike right now, people are interested in sharing their experience because no one told them how to do it. And if I could be helpful to another person, that would make me really happy to make something a little bit easier for somebody else.